Good morning, Kenya. Rise and shine to the morning momentum. Your daily dose of a comprehensive rundown of the top stories making the headlines. It is the 9th day of September 2025, and this is a daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and expert opinion. Use the hashtag the morning momentum at Younib Media TV at Alphonce Albakwekwe. Let's take a look at the top stories on the Daily Nation this morning. On the front page, violation. 1 million state workers gobble up half of taxes. Government agencies and counties routinely break statutory ceilings on pay. Now, the trends of public wage bill and ordinary revenue in millions is highlighted for you there in a bar graph, and you will take a look at that. And it has been skyrocketing from the statistics given here on the front page of the Nation. On page 7, county employees go without salaries. We'll take a look at that. And on page 6, Ruto invites hundreds of tutors to State House for talks on CBE. On page 10, orders put on ice e-procurement, protest victims team. All right. And on page 4 and page 5, still the continuation of violation on government hiring spree. So a hiring spree to meet the demand for more teachers, medics, and security officers has pushed the number of government employees past 1 million. The bloated workforce is consuming nearly half of annual tax revenues, with the runaway wage bill leaving little for development. So we'll take a look at that. Let's get up close and candid on page 2. Kenyan man charged in 32 billion shillings US pandemic period fraud. Now, if convicted, Sheikh faces a maximum of 20 years in federal prison as well as forfeiture of assets. Prosecution documents show Sheikh allegedly received money from one of the masterminds to invest in real estate in Kenya. You want to catch up with that on page 2. Now, on page 3 this morning, religion. Why Muslims performed special prayers during blood moon. Clerics said the prayers are not tied to the superstition but to humility in acknowledging Allah's greatness. Salat al-Husuf is a special prayer offered during lunar eclipses, while Salat al-Kusuf is for solar eclipses. Now, you want to catch up with that on page 3. Still on page 3, Miano launches planetarium to tap into astrotourism. Now, Tourism Cabinet Secretary Rebecca Miano on Sunday led guests in watching the lunar eclipse at Sopa Lodge in Samburu National Reserve as she unveiled Kenya's astrotourism offering. The pioneering project aims to place Kenya on the global astrotourism map, tapping into fast-growing niche already popular in destinations such as Chile and Namibia. Now, let's take a look at page 4. 1 million workers gobbling up half of revenue, data shows. Government entities that led on highest amounts spent on salaries were Teachers Service Commission, National Police Service, State Department for Correctional Services, and the Internal Security Department. Total government workers crossed 1 million mark for the first time last year, and the number keeps on growing. Now, the public sector wage bill, that is 2020 to 2025, and the total revenue in 2020 was 1,797,665,000,000 in 2020. In 2025, it is 2,571,000,000,000. Change is 773,335,000,000, 43% growth. The total wage bill is 917,820,000,000. Now, in 2025, that was in 2020. In 2025, it is 1,245,665,000,000. Change is 327,845,000,000, a growth of 35.7%. In the public sector, workers are 884,700. That is in 2020. In 2025, the total public sector workers is 1,054,425, a change of 169,725, totaling to 19.2% growth in the public sector workers. The average monthly salary per worker is 67,038 as 2020. As of 2025, it stands at 73,732, a change of 6,694, indicating 9.9% growth. So the wage bill to revenue ratio in 2020 was 51%. In 2025, it stands at 48.45%. You want to catch up with that on page 4. Now, let's take a look at page 6. Ruto invites thousands of teachers to State House. Leaders of unions and associations say they'll highlight the various challenges in the sector. Special Needs Teachers Union says it has not received the invite to attend the meeting. That story is augmented for you on page 6. On page 7 this morning, survival, pain as county staff go months without salaries. Now, employees have abandoned their offices as they focus on private businesses to make ends meet. County governments blame delays on late disbursements from National Treasury and internal issues, including new systems. That story is augmented for you on page 7. Let's take a look at page 8. Debate. Ruto's endless task forces stir political and legal upheaval. Now, while some see them as necessary instruments for reform, critics accuse him of wasting public resources. Since taking office on September 13th, 2022, the president has set up more than 10 task forces dividing public opinion. Heavy cost teams a steep price to pay for taxpayers. The cost of task forces is a persistent concern. They require millions of shillings for allowances, research, logistics, and consultancy fees. According to a 2014 circular from the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, public sector task force chairpersons were entitled to 5,000 shillings per day, and members 4,000 shillings, and support staff between 1,000 and 2,000 shillings a day. You want to catch up with that story on page 8. Now, let's move on and take a look at page 10 of the Nation this morning. Now, appeal. Ruto suffers double court blow on e-procurement and protest payouts. Now, conservatory orders were issued following petitions by civilians and rights groups. The president had said that public officials unwilling to transition to the digital system should step down. You want to catch up with that story on page 10. Now, still on page 10 this morning, tour operator fights to save Kilimani home from auction. A businessman is asking the court to reverse a decision by a bank to auction his residence in the upmarket Kilimani estate, Nairobi, over disputed 10.6 million shillings loan. In desperation, James Mwangi Rukwaro is urging the Milimani Commercial Court to intervene and compel the top regional lender to reverse its actions and restore his only home where he lives with his school-going children. That story is augmented for you on page 10. On page 12 this morning, Africa pushes to craft climate solutions. Now, the summit is expected to end tomorrow with the adoption of Addis Ababa Declaration. Heads of state are among thousands of delegates attending the climate gathering. You want to catch up with that on page 12. And on page 13 this morning, technology. AI leveling the field in youth's fight for clients with big farms. Now, AI enables creators to tailor campaigns across platforms. Elvis Warutumo stumbled on a video of a student using artificial intelligence to complete homework and wondered if AI can write essays. Can it help him with client work? You want to catch up with that story on technology on page 13 of the Nation this morning. Let's shift gears and take a look at expert opinion. Today, it's all about excellence in public service will secure transformation. And these are sentiments by Felix Koskei. He says every interaction with citizens, every decision made, and every service delivered reflects on the government as a whole. That story is augmented for you on page 14. On page 15 this morning, Faith Irungu will check Ruto toadies. Despite my reservations, I quote Macharia Gaido, I accept that Ms. Odhiambo and Mr. Irungu can play invaluable roles in checking pro-regime maneuvers. And that story is augmented for you on page 15 of the Nation this morning. Now, on the DN2 article, Powering SMEs, this eco-conscious business is fueling Thika's circular economy. The firm burns plastics in a controlled, oxygen-free environment and outcomes synthetic oil, cleaner, lower in sulfur and less toxic than furnace oils and industrial diesel that factories depend on. You want to catch up with that innovation on the DN2 article, Powering SMEs, this morning. So with that, I think we can take a look at county news. Let's start with Nairobi. Now, Girls' school shut down after night of student unrest. St. George Girls Secondary School in Nairobi was closed indefinitely yesterday after overnight unrest left students stranded outside in the cold. Police and school administrators assured parents that investigations would be fast-tracked after the incident, which saw at least two students and a teacher injured on Sunday night. According to a senior officer at the scene, the chaos began during evening classes when a teacher on duty confronted a student loitering outside. And I quote, "The teacher had just asked the student to return to class after observing the lunar eclipse. Out of curiosity, he approached her to ask why she was still outside," the officer said. The exchange escalated, angering nearby from two students, and the situation worsened when the teacher allegedly made derogatory remarks, sparking outrage and drawing in the wider student body. Two girls, including a Form 3 student, were injured, while the teacher also required hospital treatment. Fearful students refused to return to class or dormitories. Now, in politics, parties opt for backroom deals as by-elections near. The mini polls are shaping up as high-stakes contests as well as litmus tests for 2027. They are persuading aspirants to step aside in favor of colleagues considered more popular. And this is all about the UDA certificates that were issued yesterday. You have a picture there. And now let's take a look at page 18, still on county news. Now, hunger versus conservation, battle for Lake Nakuru's fish. Thousands lost homes and farms as neighborhoods were submerged by the rising lake waters. For the locals, the lake is no longer just a safe haven for wild animals. It's at last a resort for human survival. You want to catch up with those insights on page 18. Let's take a look at some statistics in regards to that. 180,000 shillings is the amount of money that a fish trader admitted to making on a good night from Lake Nakuru. All right. Now, also this morning, keep off pork ward campaigns, Kajiado staff told. Now, Kajiado County staff have been cautioned against taking part in early campaigns for the pork ward by-election, with offenders facing disciplinary action, including dismissal. Amid a heightened activity ahead of the poll on November 27th, the county government has issued an internal memo cautioning staff against partisan involvement. The by-election is shaping up as litmus test for the 2027 contest, pitting Governor Joseph Olelenku and other regional heavyweights against each other. Now, let's shift gears and take a look at the international scene. Backlash. At least 14 killed as social media embargo triggers quote-unquote Gen Z protest. Move to block access to several social media platforms last week has fueled anger. Protesters stormed the parliament complex by breaking through a barricade. Now, unrest killed at least 14 people and injured dozens in Nepal's capital on Monday, state TV said, as police fired tear gas and rubber bullets at protesters trying to storm parliament in anger at a social media shutdown and corruption. Some protesters forced their way into the parliament complex by breaking through a barricade, a local official said, setting fire to an ambulance, hurling objects at riot police, and ferrying the injured to hospitals on motorcycles. Now, in Jerusalem, Palestinian gunmen kill 6 at Jerusalem bus stop. Two Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a bus stop on the outskirts of Jerusalem on Monday, killing 6 people in what police described as a terrorist attack, one of the deadliest in the city in the past few years. Footage from a dashboard camera at the scene showed people fleeing from the vicinity of a bus stopped by the side of a road as shots rang out. Another video showed a bus's windscreen and windows pierced with bullet holes. Now, let's come back to Nairobi. Police detained senior Ugandan opposition leader. Police detained a senior official of the Uganda's largest opposition party, National Unity Platform, NUP, On Monday, while he attended a court appearance by his colleagues, a lawmaker from the party and a police spokesperson said, Alex Waiswa Mufumbiro, who is NUP's deputy spokesperson, was forced into a vehicle just outside a magistrate's court in the capital Kampala. Joel Senyonyi, the leader of opposition in parliament, said. Now, also, Spain bans Israel-bound arms ships planes over Gaza. Spain on Monday banned ships and aircraft carrying weapons to Israel from calling at Spanish ports or entering its airspace due to Israel's military offensive in Gaza, measures the Israeli foreign minister denounced as anti-Semitic. Spain, which recognized a Palestinian state in May 2024, has been a vocal critic of Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip, responded to Gideon Saar's comments by summoning its ambassador in Tel Aviv back for consultations. You want to catch up with that on page 20. Now let's take a look at business news. Relief, 350 shillings price cap on spirits made from local crops. The beer that currently enjoys this benefit is largely Senator Keg. Draft regulations seeks to extend waiver to alcohol made from crops grown in Kenya. The digit stands at 80%, and the excise duty waiver that alcohol made from locally grown crops will enjoy under draft rules. So that's the digit. Let's take a look at crackdown. KRS seizes 46 million shillings illicit goods and blocks 19 million tax evasion. Kenya Revenue Authority has confiscated illicit goods valued at over 46 million during recent operations in Kirinyaga and Uasin Gishu, preventing 19 million in tax evasion to ensure fair trade and safeguard public health. In Kirinyaga, the KRA seized contraband cigarettes worth 29 million shillings, avoiding a loss of 8.6 million in taxes. In Eldoret, a raid on an illegal alcohol manufacturing facility uncovered counterfeit stamps, ethanol, and illicit liquor. Now, on page 21 again, markets, NSE posts third highest dollar returns in Africa. The Nairobi Securities Exchange handed foreign investors the third highest dollar returns in the years so far among the 10 African markets tracked by the Morgan Stanley Capital International MSCI Frontier and emerging market indices following the recent blue chip stocks price rally. You want to catch up with that on page 21. Now, let's move on and take a look at sports news. We start with the 2025 World Athletic Championships, which is 4 days away, and it will be happening in Japan. So, first batch of Team Kenya athletes have left for Tokyo, and athletes from 200 countries will be competing in Tokyo starting this Saturday. You'll catch up with that on page 30. Now, also Ndumberi golfer wins Diani Beach Masters. Former national junior golf champion Elvis Muigwa took full advantage of the absence of defending champion John Legirma and Ndumberi's Michael Karanga to win Diani Beach Masters golf title at the Par 72 Diamonds Leisure Golf Resort in Diani at the weekend. Muigwa, who is a member of Ndumberi Golf Club, won the national junior title in 2022 and has also won 6 Kenya Amateur Golf Championship events. On Sunday, he produced a 3-day total of 6 over par 22 gross made up of 76.74 and 72 to win. Now, let's take a look at rugby. Buffalo Otieno, how I found love while on tour with Kenya Sevens. Interesting. Retired Kenya Sevens star for empowerment retired Kenya Sevens star roots for empowerment of women through sport. In his heyday, former Kenya Sevens forward dazzled fans with his powerful runs, dance, squints, and commanding physique. Now, in the 2021-2022 World Rugby Sevens series, Kenya Sevens forward Alvin Bufa Otieno went touring with the team and made the headlines after dishing out handoff after handoff. Now, handoff or staffam fend is a legal action in rugby by a ball carrier where the player uses the palm of the hand to push an opponent away to prevent being tackled. You want to catch up with more of those insights on page 31. And yeah, it's a beautiful story right there for you. On the cover page of The Nation this morning, 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers, Coach McCarthy says, will not underrate Seychelles' team. Harambee Stars are playing for pride in Group F. Kenya's opponents have lost all their 7 qualifier matches, conceding 34 goals in the process. Harambee Stars coach Benny McCarthy has said his players will not underrate Seychelles in their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier match planned for today at Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani. Seychelles have lost all their 7 qualifier matches while conceding 34 goals and scoring only twice. Now, with that story, we come to the tail end of today's session of the Morning Momentum. Thank you so much for choosing to stay with us. And our heartfelt gratitude goes to all those who made this broadcast a success. Behind the lens, Elias Mushina, and the chief controller this morning has been Penina Washera. See you tomorrow at the studio, same time. Until then, do have a beautiful Tuesday ahead of you. My name is Alphonse Ouma. Bye bye for now.